In 1990, Yugoslavia's economy represented 40% of Italy's total GDP. Today, all the former Yugoslav republics combined equal just 12% of Italy's GDP. That's not economic stagnation. That's economic erasure. The story you've been told goes like this. Communism fell, ethnic wars destroyed everything, corruption took over, and now they're slowly rebuilding. But 33 years after the wars ended, the numbers aren't improving, they're getting worse. And the reasons why reveal something disturbing about how modern European economies can get trapped in permanent decline. Let's start with a comparison nobody talks about. In the late 1980s, Slovenia and what's now the Czech Republic had similar economic profiles, comparable industrial bases, similar education levels, roughly equivalent living standards. Today, Czech workers earn around 31,000 euros per year. Slovenians, despite being the wealthiest of the former Yugoslav republics, earn about the same at 34,000 euros. And Slovenia is the success story. In Bosnia, average income drops to 7,900 euros. In North Macedonia, it's 5,900 euros. The wars get blamed for everything. Between 1991 and 2001, the Yugoslav conflicts killed approximately 140,000 people. Another 2.2 million were displaced. Cities like Vukovar and Sarajevo were reduced to rubble. But here's what doesn't add up about that explanation. Poland also had its economy gutted by 40 years of communist mismanagement. Vietnam endured a war that killed 3 million people and devastated the country far more thoroughly. Both have grown faster than any Balkan nation since 1995. So, what's actually happening? The answer starts in 1995 at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. That's where diplomats signed the agreement ending the Bosnian War. The world celebrated it as a diplomatic triumph. What they built was an economic nightmare that runs on autopilot. Bosnia-Herzegovina emerged from Dayton, split into two entities, the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina and Republika Srpska. Each has its own government, budget, and laws. The federation is further divided into 10 cantons, each with its own government and budget. Add the central state government, and you get 13 separate governments for 3.2 million people. Germany, by comparison, has 16 states for 83 million people. Want to start a business in Bosnia? According to the World Bank's 2019 Doing Business report, registering property requires 14 separate procedures across multiple government levels. The process takes an average of 80 days. In Estonia, the same thing takes 17 days. Each layer of government needs funding. The country reportedly employs around 350,000 people in government positions. Those salaries and pensions must be paid, which means taxes stay high, which means businesses stay away, which means the only stable jobs are government jobs, which means the cycle continues. The pension system tells you everything you need to know about sustainability. According to various reports, Bosnia's pension system runs massive annual deficits. The country pays out far more in pensions than it collects in contributions. To put this in perspective, Greece's pension crisis that nearly destroyed the European economy in 2010 represented about 7% of GDP. Bosnia's structural problems are comparable, but nobody's talking about it because the country is too small to matter to international markets. Move south to North Macedonia, and you find a different pathology with identical results. In 2001, the country narrowly avoided civil war between the Macedonian majority and Albanian minority. The Ohrid Agreement that prevented full conflict created a mandatory quota system. Every government institution must reflect the country's ethnic composition. If Albanians represent 25% of the population, they must be 25% of every ministry, police force, and public company. That sounds reasonable until you see how it works in practice. Hiring happens by ethnicity first, competence second. According to the 2020 European Commission report on North Macedonia, the country ranks 111th out of 140 countries in government efficiency. When a position opens, you can't simply hire the best candidate. You have to hire the best candidate from the correct ethnic group. And since these positions are distributed politically, you often hire based on party loyalty first, ethnicity second, and qualifications a distant third. North Macedonia's state-owned enterprises reportedly lose tens of millions of euros annually. The railway system alone requires substantial subsidies just to keep operating. That's money that could fund infrastructure, education, or healthcare, instead going to prop up workforces that exist for political rather than economic reasons. Serbia should be the region's economic engine. It has 11 million people, relatively good infrastructure, and the strongest industrial base from the Yugoslav era. In 2012, the government began EU accession negotiations, and everyone predicted rapid growth. What happened instead reveals the third trap killing the Balkans. The European Union requires candidate countries to harmonize 80,000 pages of regulations with EU standards before joining. For Estonia, with 1.3 million people and a streamlined government, this was challenging but manageable. They completed it in 10 years. For Serbia, with its bloated bureaucracy and politically connected state enterprises, it's proving nearly impossible. Take the steel industry. Serbia's steel mills, inherited from Yugoslavia, employ tens of thousands of people. Most facilities use technology that violates EU environmental standards. Bringing them into compliance would cost billions of euros. Serbia doesn't have that money, but closing the mills would eliminate major employers in cities where alternatives don't exist. Those workers vote, so the government subsidizes the mills, which lose money, which drains the budget, which means less for modernization, which means the mills stay obsolete. According to various IMF reports, Serbia provides hundreds of millions of euros annually in subsidies to state-owned enterprises. That's several percentage points of GDP spent keeping zombie companies alive. Here's the cruel irony. Those subsidies violate EU competition law. The European Union has explicitly told Serbia that, to join, it must stop subsidizing these companies. But stopping means unemployment, which means political suicide, which means the subsidies continue, which means EU membership stays out of reach. Now add the brain drain, and the picture turns catastrophic. According to OECD data, 665,000 people have left Serbia since 2000. These aren't random citizens. Research from the Vienna Institute for Economic Studies shows that while Serbia experiences overall emigration, the pattern varies by education level. Medium-skilled workers, particularly those with vocational training like medical technicians, leave in large numbers. A 2018 Gallup poll found that 46% of Serbians aged 15 to 29 would leave the country if they could. When your electrical engineers move to Germany and your nurses move to Austria, you're not just losing workers, you're losing the people capable of building a modern economy. And the numbers confirm it. Serbia produces tens of thousands of university graduates annually in technical fields. Within years of graduation, many are working abroad. That represents hundreds of millions of euros in education, training people who generate wealth for other countries. It's a reverse development program. Across the Western Balkans, the pattern is similar but varies by country. In the last 3 decades, Serbia has lost 9% of its population to immigration. North Macedonia has lost 10%. Bosnia and Herzegovina has lost 24% of its people. Albania has lost 37%. These are catastrophic demographic collapses. The response from Balkan governments has been to court foreign investment. But even this becomes a trap. In 2018, Serbia gave Chinese mining company Zijin the rights to operate the Bor copper mine. The deal involved $1.26 billion in investment and promised thousands of jobs. The Serbian government celebrated it as a breakthrough. What they didn't advertise were the terms. Zijin reportedly pays royalties well below global averages. The company received a lengthy tax holiday. Environmental regulations were relaxed to levels that would be illegal in the EU. Within 2 years, according to local reports, air pollution in Bor had increased dramatically. Residents began reporting respiratory problems. Protests erupted in 2021 when testing allegedly showed sulfur dioxide levels far above legal limits. But the mine employs thousands in a city of 30,000. Closing it isn't an option, so Bor slowly poisons itself in exchange for jobs paying a few hundred euros monthly, while the copper extracted generates billions for foreign shareholders. This pattern repeats across the region. North Macedonia gave foreign companies rights to operate gold mines under similar terms. Albania privatized chromium mines to foreign investors who employ local workers at minimum wage while exporting raw materials. Bosnia sold telecommunications infrastructure to Austrian and Croatian companies. The profits leave, wages stay low, and environmental damage stays forever. Meanwhile, organized crime has become one of the region's most successful economic sectors. According to various Europol reports, the Balkan cocaine route now handles a substantial portion of Europe's cocaine supply. Estimates suggest Balkan organized crime groups generate billions of euros annually from drug trafficking, human smuggling, and weapons dealing. To understand how this happened, you need to go back to the Yugoslav wars. When Yugoslavia collapsed, massive military stockpiles disappeared into the black market. Paramilitary groups that fought in the wars didn't disband. They evolved into criminal organizations. Men who ran guns across borders during wartime simply continued after the shooting stopped. They had the weapons, the connections, and the experience. Critically, they had capital to invest in legitimate businesses. Today, according to investigative journalism from outlets like Balkan Insight, organized crime groups reportedly own or control hundreds of businesses across the region. These range from nightclubs and car dealerships to construction companies and real estate developments. They employ thousands, pay taxes, sponsor local sports teams. They're integrated into the economy at every level. And because they control so much economic activity, they influence politicians. In 2019, Montenegro's deputy state prosecutor claimed organized crime figures had paid millions in bribes to government officials. He was dismissed shortly after. In 2021, North Macedonia arrested a former interior minister for allegedly protecting drug trafficking networks. The prosecution reportedly collapsed when key witnesses recanted. Investigative journalists who document connections between officials and criminal groups face threats and sometimes flee the country. Here's what makes this different from typical corruption. In most countries, organized crime operates in shadows, bribing officials to look away. In the Balkans, criminal enterprises have become significant economic players. When illegal businesses generate more revenue than legitimate industrial sectors, when they employ more people than manufacturing, you can't crack down without triggering economic collapse. The crime has become structural. The European Union, despite its anti-corruption rhetoric, has enabled this. The EU provides billions in development funds to Balkan countries, distributed through existing governments. Between 2014 and 2020, the EU allocated 11.7 billion euros to Western Balkan countries through its pre-accession assistance program. A 2021 European Court of Auditors audit found that 23% of these funds could not be properly accounted for. That's 2.7 billion euros that disappeared into incomplete projects, unbuilt infrastructure, or paper companies. But the EU can't stop funding the Balkans. If they did, these countries might collapse entirely, or turn to Russia or China for support. So the money keeps flowing, corruption continues, and everyone pretends the system works. This brings us to the final factor. Nobody has an incentive to fix anything. Political elites benefit from the current system. In Bosnia, controlling one of the 13 government entities means controlling hundreds of jobs and millions in budget allocations. In Serbia, proximity to the ruling party means access to state contracts, subsidies, and privatization deals. Government positions across the Balkans often come with salaries several times higher than private sector wages. The European Union benefits because the dysfunction keeps the Balkans dependent and prevents them from joining, which would require expensive integration support. Russia benefits because Balkan instability prevents NATO expansion and creates opportunities for influence. China benefits because desperate governments accept infrastructure deals with terms no developed country would consider. Even citizens have adapted. Surveys indicate that a significant portion of working-age adults in the region participate in the informal economy. That means unreported income, untaxed transactions, work done under the table. When taxes are high and government services poor, people create parallel economic structures. But this shrinks the tax base further, which deteriorates services more, which pushes more people to abandon the formal economy. The result is countries that are technically at peace, nominally democratic, and theoretically progressing toward EU membership, but they're actually trapped in a self-reinforcing cycle of dysfunction. Every element of the system depends on every other element staying broken. Fix one part, and you destabilize everything else. The statistics confirm this isn't improving. Real wage growth in the Balkans has averaged around 1–2% annually since 2010. That's compared to nearly 4% in Central Europe. Foreign direct investment per capita in Serbia is substantially lower than in Poland. Youth unemployment in Bosnia currently stands above 30%. In North Macedonia, it's similar. These aren't recession numbers, these are depression numbers that have persisted for decades. Perhaps most telling, in 1990, Yugoslavia's economy was 40% of Italy's. Today, all former Yugoslav republics combined equal 12% of Italy's economy. That's not transition, that's elimination. The tragedy is that the Balkans have everything needed for prosperity. The region has mineral resources, agricultural land, a strategic location between Europe and Asia, and educated populations. What it lacks is a system capable of using any of these advantages. After 33 years of failure, the system has calcified to the point where change seems impossible without some external shock. That shock might be coming. Climate projections suggest agricultural output in the Balkans could decline significantly by 2040. The region's remaining young people are leaving faster than ever, and the EU has quietly shelved aggressive expansion plans, suggesting that even the promise of eventual membership may be fading. So, here's the question nobody wants to answer. What happens to a region that has no economic future, no demographic future, and no political path forward? Because that's what the Balkans are becoming, and the rest of Europe is letting it happen. What do you think could actually break this cycle? Leave your thoughts below. And if you want more analysis of the economic and political crises everyone else is ignoring, subscribe.